Greetings, Earth and Space Explorers. Welcome to Doc Waller's Earth and Space Report for Friday, May 29, 2026. I'm your host, Bill Waller, an astronomer, science educator, and communicator, coming to you on a damp spring evening in my hometown of Rockport, Massachusetts. These Earth and Space reports are intended to engage and inform people like you who are curious about Earth as a planet, who care about our life-sustaining biosphere, and who wonder about the greater cosmos and all that it has engendered throughout space and time. Video recordings of these reports are archived on the Earth and Space Reports YouTube channel. They are also in regular rotation on Cape community access cable television channel hosted by 1623 Studios. I'm grateful for the continuing support shown by local science educators and their students, Cape Ann cultural colleagues, cohorts of the Gloucester Area Astronomy Club, myriad Earth and space scientists, educators, and communicators, far-flung friends, family, and other curious folk. Thank you for your active participation and encouragements. This evening, I'm grateful to be hosting Eric Majors, founder and executive director of Seaside Sustainability. Based in Gloucester, Massachusetts, Seaside Sustainability is a nationally recognized nonprofit advancing innovative solutions to plastic pollution, marine debris, and climate education. Eric is a lifelong educator and award-winning climate leader. He has been honored at the White House and recognized as Climate Educator of the Year for his pioneering work at the intersection of science, community, and action. Eric also created Green Scholars, an award-winning project-based course that empowers students to lead sustainability initiatives within their schools. In January 2025, one of these Green Scholars, Hayden Spencer of Manchester by the Sea, gave an Earth and Space report on the age of plastics. This evening, Eric will provide a broader perspective on the causes, consequences, and solutions relating to the plague of plastics in our earthly environment. So let's get going. The Zoom platform is all yours, Eric.
Thank you, Bill. Great intro. I really appreciate that. Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being here. And this should work out pretty good. Is that as you see plastics in our environment?
Perfect.
All right, great. Well, thank you, Bill. Yeah, Seaside has, we're actually under a rebrand. And we are really working on plastics. About 90% of what we do is in the plastics realm. And so we're really leaning into it and really adopting what we do in plastics. So this presentation is going to be about 40 minutes. And we are going to go through a little bit about the science of plastic, what Seaside does, and then what the average person can do to eliminate or find alternatives to plastics in their lives. This is a very, very fast presentation because there's a lot to talk about plastics in our environment, but we'll do our best. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Bill. Thank you for the invite. So, the end here is microplastics, and it is a macro problem of our daily lives. Microplastic pollution has become one of the most pervasive environmental issues of our times. And a 2025 Nature Medicine study found micro and nanoplastic concentrations in human brain cell samples were up to 30 times higher than liver and kidney samples. We were just talking about this before we started, and someone was saying some pretty nasty effects of plastics in the brain. So the science behind plastic pollution is pretty interesting. So plastic pollution is a materials, chemistry, public health, climate, and ecosystem issue. Plastics are engineered to be very lightweight, durable, and flexible, as well as you know, inexpensive. There was a well, I won't continue. But those are the same traits, actually, in plastics that make them persist in the environment. And really, it's not like a PFAS, like a forever chemical, but there is really no way. They just break down into microplastics, and they just keep breaking down. Understand the science helps us move from cleanup alone, so from that removal alone, to research, education, advocacy, prevention, and then removal, but long-term solutions. So as many of you know, plastics are synthetic polymers from all these different types of plastics. And that synthetic polymers made from long chains of molecules and mostly exclusively derived from fossil fuels, which has a lot of issues in itself. We'll talk about that. Many plastics do not biodegrade. Well, when you talk about biodegrade is a term used. I think it used to be used for anything that is maybe we consider compostable, but really chemically everything biodegrades. So that is not a very good way to call things that are decomposing. They just, instead of what plastics do is they just fragment into smaller and smaller pieces and some of it all the way down to the dust or the it's called a nanoplastic. And then the other problem, as we know, why they persist, additives such as dyes, flame retardants, plasticizers, and stabilizers can affect them, and how long they persist, and what risks, of course, they pose in the environment and to human health. So when plastics are exposed to heat, salt water, physical wear, and all the chemical additives that are in plastics can leach into the environment, the ecosystem, eventually our bodies, and all of our creatures that are in the world. PFAS and other persistent chemicals known as we were just talking about earlier, forever chemicals, raise a concern because it can remain in the environment indefinitely. So they're literally called forever chemicals and are linked to health, lots and lots of health and ecological risk. And it appears like every time we turn around, there's more indications of PFAS in our environment that we had no idea about. It's really bad. So these are the three types of plastics. Actually, there's two others. There's mesoplastics in between macroplastics and microplastics, and there's mini micro, which is literally between nano and microplastics. But from left to right, you have the smallest there, which is like a nanoplastic. So it's about the size of a carbon atom. It's tiny, tiny, tiny. Nanoplastics are even smaller particles, harder to detect, and move more easily through air, water, soil, and biological systems. So nanoplastics are smaller than a human hair, and too small to see without an advanced instrument. So you would never see one of those unless you had a really, really advanced instrument. Microplastics right in the middle. Those are plastic particles that are smaller than 5 millimeters and can come from products, fibers, pellets, or even broken down debris. And they're about the size 0.2 of an inch. It's about the size. The biggest particle would be about the size of like 3 stacked credit cards, about that. Or it can go all the way down to like the smallest would be like dust or tiny little fibers. And then at the top is macroplastics. Macroplastics is much larger, visible items such as bottles, bags, packaging, all the stuff that you see, and you know what those are. So that's a macroplastics. And how do they break down? So plastics in the environment can really break down in 4 different ways. Photooxidation. So photooxidation is really from the sun, and it's ultraviolet radiation that breaks them down, chemical bonds, and cause them to become brittle. And so if you've ever gone and pick something up on the beach and just in a piece of plastic and it just kind of shatters in your hand, that's usually because it's been photooxidized. Mechanical abrasion, that's essentially when things get rough up against each other. So it's a bottle against sand or against rock, against plastics rubbing against each other. Thermal and chemical degradation. So thermal, of course, is extreme temperature fluctuations, really cold to really hot, that can really break down the bonds of plastics. And then also, our ocean is incredibly acidic. So exposure to salts and acidic environments can cause expansion and contraction, weaken materials, and all that. And the last one is biodegradation. Interestingly enough, so it's out in the middle of the ocean, and you have these little microorganisms can attach to the plastics and release enzymes. And so that's another way that plastics can degrade. And so kind of going off of our last ones, degrading, you kind of think, or you've seen, maybe it's in the news, this big Great Pacific garbage patch, and it's all floating, which really is kind of a misnomer because it's not all floating. It's essentially like plastic can start at the top floating. Most plastics do. Don't know too many that don't float, but most plastics float. And then from those four abrasion types, these how they break down. Between those four, they can start to degrade and then start to sink. Now, the worst plastic, of course, is one that's sunk on the bottom because they're never getting it out. Well, the worst plastic actually is anything that's in the environment at all in the first place, but or even produced. So you'll have plastics that can start at the floating on the surface, and then they can float a little bit, get some neutral buoyancy in any part of the water column from the surface all the way to the seafloor. So marine debris ratios, consumer, and this is in the ocean. So the ratio between consumer plastics and commercial plastics, those should actually be flipped. So commercial plastics is really kind of fishing gear, and the other is a consumer plastics, all the stuff that we find, is actually 80% consumer plastics, 20% marine debris from commercial plastics. And what we, I think, also a misnomer is that because there's so much more consumer plastics, that they're probably more detrimental to our environment, which actually in reality is commercial plastics can do a lot more harm, well, really to fisheries, really to ocean animals. But it's kind of negligible to believe that because they all break down too. And so a little bit of a misnomer, but also some truth in there too. So most of what we find on beaches every day from studies all over the world is consumer packaging. So food wrappers, bottles, caps, bags, cups, straws, cigarette filters. And then fishing gear is really, really damaging, but really kind of less common by count as that just described to 80-20. So the 10 most found marine debris globally, I know we're all on mute, so I'm not going to give you a quiz, but in the United States, for years and years and years, unless Bill, do you know? You can represent the group. What do you think it is? Though, what do you think the most common is in the world? There's one.
I would say cigarette filters in the past.
Nice job. Ding, 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 ding. Bill, nice job. Okay. That 2 years ago was just surpassed in the United States to what? Here, his is globally. So what's in the United States? It's what?
I bet it's the nips.
McDonald's wrapper.
That's a good one. It's food wrappers. It is wrappers. It's plastic pieces. So that is international cigarette butts. So we all know you've been driving down the road, and all of a sudden a cigarette butt bounces off the road. In the middle of Kansas, the middle of Bolivia, the middle of Sri Lanka, and the cigarette butt is on the ground. And where does that cigarette butt go? Well, if the town, the city, municipality has any kind of a storm drain system, it goes into the storm, it goes in a little river, goes a little stream into a river, and ends up in our ocean. That's why it's number one. However, the U.S. of A., we want to be our own. And so we're going to do plastic pieces as number one. So anyway, there's the list. And for the first time just 2 years ago, every one of the 10 most found marine debris items globally are all plastic. Cigarette butts are a combination of plastics and fiberglass and things like that, but a lot of plastic. So plastic pathways, how do things get in there? So most marine plastic pollution begins on land, of course, through litter, stormwater runoff, like our cigarette butts, overflowing trash systems, industrial loss, and poor waste management. So if you've ever been downtown, I'm not going to throw my city under the bus, but we have this horrible waste management system. So we have these open recycle bins, and we have purple bags, and you put them on the street, and if it's windy or there's dogs and coyotes and seagulls, it's a disaster. My whole area is a complete disaster. So and you've probably seen it in lots of municipalities, but anyway. Rivers, drains, winds, tides, and coastal activity move plastic from neighborhoods and businesses into waterways. And so I go down, I spend a lot of time in our harbor. We have a lot of plastics in our harbor. So once plastics enter the marine environment, it is very challenging to get them out. It's really, really, really challenging. So we try to do everything we can to prevent them from being there. So did anyone here? Well, I know you can't raise your hand, at least I can't see you all. But Sharon and a group of awesome people of the Interfaith Committee and Cape Ann Climate Change Coalition and a few partners put on this great video. If you haven't had a chance to see it, watch social media, watch your emails, because it will be coming on again at some point in the future. Awesome, great movie. But so plastics are associated with more than 16,000 chemicals, which is crazy, and at least 4,200 of those chemicals are considered are a concern because of known hazards to human health and the environment. And then that is not even; those are just like the chemicals themselves, not even them being burned for energy or burned into the environment. That's a whole nother thing. So chemicals like BPAs and phthalates leach out of everyday products, mimic and interfere with natural hormones. Certain plastic byproducts, such as dioxins and DEHP, dioxins, of course, when things are burned, are proven carcinogens that elevate the risk of cancers, particularly hormone-sensitive cancers and breast and prostate cancer. And as larger plastics degrade, they fragment, of course, into tiny particles. And as we were talking about earlier, they're now found in virtually every human organ, including the brain, blood, lungs, and placenta. And here it is. Studies link exposure to inflammation, stress, altered cellular immune functions as well. And continue. So impacts of marine life, as you can imagine, marine life can ingest plastic, become entangled in debris, lead to injury, starvation, reduced mobility, and of course death. And then plastics can totally damage their habitats, such as beaches, mudflats, eelgrass beds, salt marshes, and coastal nesting areas. So really, really bad for everyone involved. So as we know, plastics are made from fossil fuels, most, not all, but most. And here's some stats in 2019. This is some gigaton annual emissions, and in producing plastics. And you can see in 2050, I mean, we are literally sprinting to doubling and tripling our single-use plastic production, mostly in consumer plastics. It is really depressing. Greenhouse gas emissions occur across all the plastic life cycle. It's not just the production, but also transportation, use, disposal, incineration, and degradation. Reducing plastic pollution it's also a climate strategy. Lowers demand for fossil fuels, of course, the demand for fossil fuels materials, and supports sustainable systems. So we need to, of course, reduce plastics, not just because in our environment, but actually producing them and getting them to their final places is really, really bad. So I'm going to go over really quickly about what we do to combat plastics in the environment. So these are our 5 pillars. We start to the left and go to the right. Of course, we want to try to minimize as much as we're removing, because that's the last ditch effort right there. So we do a lot of marine debris trawls. We do that in Salem Sound as well as in the Ipswich Bay, both sides of Gloucester. And we found that through our trawls, that's an 8-ounce sample that she's pouring that into. We found that there's tons and tons of fibers, microfibers, and they come from our clothing. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. We have a boat shrink wrap recycling. A lot of shrink wrap, unfortunately, on the coastlines, kind of all over, ends up not getting into the trash for some reason. Tons of shrink wrap actually in Gloucester Harbor, which is really bad. So this is at the DPW. If you know anyone that owns a boat and they undo their boat every spring, that's there May through mid-June. It's still there for another 2 weeks, and so please go down to use it. It's absolutely free. Paid for by sponsors, so really great. We have, so you all know, probably living in a coastal area communities. I don't know if actually everyone's here is a little coastal. And during COVID, boat ownership exploded. Amazing amount of boats out there. Great, but a lot of these people have no idea what they're doing about navigation. That's not even thought of. But then it's like how to be a steward of of the environment when you're out on a boat. And there's a lot of ways that you can, do it right. And there's a lot of ways you can do it wrong. And so what we did is we created a clean and green boater's guide. We're actually we just partnered up with the city of Gloucester. I'm sorry, we just got funding for the city of Gloucester to make signs. And then we're going to hopefully get these signs put on places like marinas, boat ramps, so they can click on. You can click on the little QR code, and up comes the eight top things you can do to be clean and green. And then it's also going to have more information if you want to read. But we have a big macroplastic study we did a few years ago, right in the middle of COVID. We actually did the Great Marsh, starting up in Salisbury all the way down to the Cut Bridge in in Gloucester. Been a long day, and lots and lots of macroplastics. Interestingly enough, we're going to do the study again because we just came out with a program that we can use in our drone that will identify macroplastics as we we fly over with a map. So we're going to just make a grid, literally press go, do it, move to another place, make it and press go. So really exciting about this new AI technology. That's cool. I'm not super excited about AI everywhere, but that's cool. That's a cool use of AI. So we do a lot of company community service cleanup. So companies hire us. We do a bunch of team building and stuff like that. This one's on Good Harbor, and we get hired we do about 15 of them a year, and they have a great time, and they get to do some giving back to the community. Of course, we do a lot of community coastal cleanups. Back to there. If you know any companies that are interested in, getting a community service day, as well as doing some kind of fun team building, we're the people. We do a lot of community coastal cleanups, so working with schools, working with different organizations around partnering on cleanups, and another great way to clean up the environment. No, we don't just do beaches, but just because we happen to be in Gloucester and showing the beaches. So. We work together with a lot of partners. We're a part of the NOAA's marine debris action plan up in New England. And so we work collectively on abandoned derelict fishing gear and fishing for energy. Our fishing for energy program has gone away. Not that we don't have the funding, but still working on abandoned derelict fishing gear. So I think you all may know that if you ever found kind of in the nearest past, you ever found a lobster trap or some kind of a fishing gear on the beach, you're actually not allowed to touch it. Well, those rules were just changed, and now you're allowed to remove them. If it is in good condition and you feel like worth saving, if you can try to find the owner of it with the tags or the numbers, well, that'd be good. But quite often, once it's lost, mostly fishermen. Well, I don't want to speak for them, but that's it. We've done some compostables testing, and this is actually done down in Manchester Harbor. We were given some products by a company that makes BPI compostable materials, and they asked us to test them in marine environment. And what we found, our hypothesis was that things are going to decompose incredibly fast, and they're all 100% compostable. So we weren't adding any plastics. And so what we found after 2.5 years is, so we have a compostable bag, as you can see there. You can't really see it, but the inside there's a couple straws. And then there's some like an Oreo cookie tray, and then there's some sheets. So again, everything was compostable. And the bag decomposed 4 months, completely decomposed, gone. And everything else, literally not even remotely touched on it. I mean, nothing. There's no degradation at all on this stuff. So interesting that we learned that a lot of these compostable materials, although probably better for the environment, they actually don't decompose in the marine environment very, very fast. So we study microplastics in air and water. Next year, we're going to start microplastics in sand and soil, but we do that right here. We have our little lab set up, and we're actually working with some schools. We're developing this program. So it's called Seaside Scholastic Microplastics Program. We're getting really great feedback. We're going to be working with some schools, hopefully Salem State University as well. And then it's going to be a program where we're going to launch it. So hopefully it's going to be something a little bit bigger nationally, because it's not being done. And so essentially what it is teaching a teacher of a school, of a class, to work with their students and test their own their own samples, so they can bring in water from their tap, which we know all has plastics, water bottles, river water, ocean water, and they can test it. And it's a really cool. We have a great plan that they follow, and then some really great teaching tools. Like all the kids wear lab coats. It's really cool and really fun. And so again, we'll be doing microplastics in sand and soil for this program next year. So that is under development right now. So another one under development right now is a cleanup co-op. So there are a lot of programs around the world but they're very centralized, where you can adopt a street, adopt a park, adopt a beach, adopt a trail, and to keep them clean. Well, there's not many that do what we want it to do. That is like the social media, adding images, being able to join a team, start a team, run an event, and that's all the things that we're trying to do on this platform. And so we're about to launch that this fall, and hoping that it's going to be met with lots of fanfare. Actually, Zillow is interested in being its first sponsor, which is pretty interesting. Interestingly enough, if this is a plastic nurdle, these are, if you know anything about a plastic nurdles or a plastic, it's a pellet. These pellets you can see on the right. You can also see them in the sample jars on the left. These are, and that's a fish that's actually eating them, consuming them. These are virgin plastic. So anyone that's making something out of plastic, and they have like an extruder and things that melt them, and actually a forming plastic. This is how normally they get there. It's not like a 3D printer. It's more like put it in a vat, melt it, and extrude it into this mold. Things like that. It comes like this. So they come in all sorts of colors. This happens to be from two locations. Well, actually, these are the same location, but we have a huge problem right here in Gloucester. And the issue is in two places, and I'll actually show you where these are. Can you see that, or can you not see that? Did I
not see anything new?
Okay, all right. Well, if you know our area here in Gloucester, there is called Cripple Cove, which is right across from Zeke's restaurant, a great restaurant that's no longer there. And then on the other side of the State Fish Pier is called Head of the Harbor. And both of these images are taken from Cripple Cove here in Gloucester. It's on the north side of the State Fish Pier. We are finding an abundance of clear, black, gray, light gray, dark gray, and also maroon pellets. On the right side, the left side of the State Fish Pier, we're finding an incredible amount of clear. And there's something going on. We're dealing with. We are trying to figure it out, and we don't know where they're coming from. I've never even seen a pellet in the environment before, and here we're picking up, as you can see in this picture, thousands of them. So it is a big issue. Working on marine debris art with lots of partners. So if you know anybody that is interested in doing some marine debris art, they need to contact us up. Marnie, we've already spoken, so good to connect. We have sunscreen dispensers sponsored by different organizations. We have a few in town, and these are filled with eco-safe, reef-safe, body-safe sunscreen. Zinc, mostly it's like a zinc product. And what it does is it really eliminates the need for plastic tubes, and also getting a lot of that stuff, that really bad stuff, on your skin, and also into the environment. So we have two sea bins. This is a sea bin here on the left, and a marina trash skimmer. This is it on the right here. They are when they get installed, if the weather is going to be consistently nice, they get installed in the Gloucester Harbor Master docks. And what they do is essentially it's a floating trash can, and they constantly suck up marine debris, floating marine debris. Then it gets shut off. We dump them out, categorize, and count what they have. And this is relatively small. It's about 2 feet in diameter, and this is relatively large. This is about 6-7 feet in diameter. So two different kind of products. We sell a few blue tech products. One of them is called a collector. It's actually the kind of modern version, updated version of these. So it's a collector. It's attached to a dock and sucks up marine debris. This is a Pixie drone. Imagine it's a Roomba for a harbor. Radio controlled, zooms around. Kids love it. A little goofy, especially for the money, but it's a cool product. This I don't think will ever sell up here because our rivers run way too fast. It's called an invisibubble. This is actually not on the bottom of a river, but it's this bubble tube that lays in the bottom of a river. It sends up bubbles, so it makes a sheet of bubbles. So any marine debris, floating marine debris that hits this bubble, if it's of course not going fast enough, that could just go right through it, will then be kind of shuttled down to a collection at the edge. And then Bbot. So this is essentially it's a radio controlled robot that's somewhere in between the size of a go-kart and a golf cart. And what this does is actually sifts sand. So when you have a municipal cleanup, or a cleanup by hand by us, we're not picking up really small things. This thing can pick up as small as like a half of a cigarette butt, so really small. And it literally sifts the top 4 inches of sand. And we are in the process of procuring 3 of these, so that for our program called Clean Shores, and we have a lot of interest in hiring us to go and clean their beaches in New England and New York and New Jersey. So we are working hard to get 3 Bbots. So we do a lot of legislation work. Well, not a lot, but we do legislation. Look, we've done a lot of work locally, helping organizations and cities and towns with single-use plastic legislation. Done some in our fair towns right here in Manchester and Essex and Rockport and Gloucester. A little bit of a challenge these days, or maybe I just kind of minimize that. A challenge these days, considering after COVID, a lot of this legislation went away and they were never kind of readdressed. So yeah, it's we have to do more. So, but we are always we're always writing letters and supporting letters to our state government, and so do a lot of that work locally and in the state. So we work on chain, and we work doing some petitions, online petitions. I don't know how much online petitions actually work. There's some research to be said that they work. There's some research to be said that they do very little. So we think at some point, we're about to be launching them. So we're going to be doing some change.orgs or Action Network on items just like that. So for single-use plastic legislation, bottle bills, extended producer responsibility, et cetera, et cetera. So we also work on it's going to be called the Plastics Report, and it is so we do our own research. We publish articles, and we also publish them in a newsletter. Right now, our newsletter is called Sea Change. It used to be really about climate change. Soon it'll be rebranded to really about plastics. A few things that we do that really don't fit into our program that are still doing a lot of field work. We work with the Division of Marine Fisheries. We monitor 4 sites in Gloucester and Essex and Manchester and Beverly Farms. We continue to do mudflat acidification testing in 4 sites in Cape Ann. And we continue to do horseshoe crab monitoring. If anybody is interested in tagging horseshoe crabs, wants to get out in the environment, it's really cool. It's a great way to kind of communicate with the environment. The tags are these little things that go on kind of the back wings. I want to say it doesn't hurt the crab. It might hurt them a little bit, but they're not hurt for very long. And so if anyone's interested, feel free to contact me. So how are our lives? I'm going to go really fast with some of these because we don't have too much time. So first and foremost, let me go back. So this is how we can combat plastics in our own lives. So first and foremost, I think it's like if you don't succeed or you don't try, don't beat yourself up and just keep trying, because, it's a lot of times like, I'm going to dedicate myself to bringing my cup everywhere I go. And, some people do it and they're really successful. And sometimes you do it and you're not successful. Instead of beating yourself up about like, screw, that's too hard, just try again. And that's what kind of goes for all of these things. And these are just a bunch of things that you can do in your lives, your homes, and your office, wherever you live, your families. So definitely prioritize reusing any way you can. Fun fact: a reusable food container can outperform a single-use container after only about 5 uses. So that's pretty interesting. So choose products with less packaging. So fun fact: one reusable bag can replace hundreds of single-use bags every year, but only if we actually reuse it. So the whole like, oh, I forgot them in the back of the car. So we have to get ourselves, we have to train ourselves to do these little things. And you know what? After you do a few, and most of you probably do a lot of these, but for those that don't, or for those that you're teaching, don't shame them. Just try to help them. So buying larger quantities in bulk always helps. So fun fact, according to Portland State University Food Industry Leadership Center, buying in bulk can cut packaging waste by as much as estimated 89% compared with prepackaged foods. Now, of course, that's as much as, it all depends on what you're buying and where you're buying it from. But buying in larger quantities and in bulk is always good. Definitely avoid single-use takeout packaging. I know several people, definitely someone in this call that does this, and that person brings their own packaging to that. I'm often not remembering to even do that, and so what I will ask is some aluminum. So if you can just kind of wrap that up in aluminum, because aluminum, especially in this state, well, in lots of states, but aluminum is definitely recycled a lot more. But you got to make sure it's clean. You don't just throw all that stuff in recycling, and we're not getting into recycling. Oh, fun fact on that: it's estimated that every year America's single-use plastic takeout packaging could fill about 200 Empire State Buildings if they're turned up on an upside down. That's pretty gross. So this is probably something that you see all over. These bottles all over, single-use plastic water bottles. Fun fact, a NIH summary of reported that 1 liter of bottled water contained an average about 240,000 tiny plastic particles, most of them nanoplastics. Support local, regional, national legislation, essentially, and also sign petitions. According to a 2025 Science Journal study using shoreline cleanup data, found that plastic bag policies were associated with up to a 47% reduction in plastic bags found in the environment. So those communities that had plastic bag reduction policies and legislation in the municipality saw a 47% reduction in plastic bags found in the environment. So that's pretty cool. Choose plastic-free personal care products. When you go in your bathroom, you look around, it's like, what the heck? According to the EPA's Environmental Consumers Handbook, U.S. consumers throw away about 2 billion disposable razors alone, and end to end, they could circle the earth nearly 6 times. 2 billion disposable razors alone. That's crazy. So choose natural fibers. It's really difficult to choose natural fibers. I'm looking down right now, and nothing I have on actually is new. But it's really hard to choose them. So, but if you're trying to avoid plastics, lots of our clothes that you're wearing right now is just loaded with plastics. So fun fact, according to the International Wool Textile Organization, a single load of laundry can release up to 6 million microfibers in the wastewater system, which is just incredible. So here's a fun thing. We are actually a quote unquote partner dealer of these goods. We don't make any money, but use that code. If you don't forget it, you can say Filtrol, FIRTL. So type in that Filtrol and type in Seaside Sustainability. You'll come to the page, and it's this filter that goes onto the effluent of your washing machine, so you can feel good about this. According to a Georgian Bay Forever and Perry Sound study, one Filtrol washing machine effluent filter can capture about 89% of fibers before they enter the septic system, wastewater systems, and waterways. So really, really great. I can tell you, one, that this works because I have one. I actually have a 2-family, but one of them I can't do because it's tiny little space. So before you buy one, make sure it can actually fit. And also, it comes with 2 filters. It's kind of like you kind of think like, oh, I should buy 7 filters or something. You don't have to. The one filter that I've had in my downstairs apartment has lasted now 2 years. And just make sure that when you clean it out, you dump it out and you don't go and wash it, because that's completely that's reverse of what you're doing. So you use that, you get 5% off and a free filter bag. But it's pretty cool, and they do a great job. So filter your drinking water. That is a really great one. So fun fact, according to an Orb Media investigation report called Invisibles, found plastic particles in 83% of tap water samples tested across 5 continents. In the U.S., the rate reported was even higher, with plastic particles found in about 94% of tap water samples. We have, that's what we plan on doing in our testing. But not all filters at the tap are equal. So make sure that you're doing it. Please, please, please avoid heating plastics. Do not heat anything in your food in microwave using plastics. Microwave in some plastic food containers can release millions to billions of microplastics, nanoplastic particles from a single container over time. So please do not. Report your noodles and plastic pellets to us, and literally that's a picture really of them just in nature. Volunteer, join a cleanup. Support local organizations like all of these guys, and get involved and educated. Scientists estimate that humanity has produced more than 18 trillion pounds of plastic, enough solid plastic to cover all of Central Park, more than 1.5 mile and a half deep, or fill more than 3 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. So pretty gross. So here are my parting thoughts. Never underestimate your power. Be an informed consumer, and think globally and act locally. And thank you.
Okay. Wow. I am so screwed.
That's great. You're recording this right now.
You're not the only one.
Good.
Eric, thank you very much. Great presentation.
Thank you, Arthur.
Very informative and scary at the same time. And what really concerns me about pollution in the ocean seems to come from mankind building along the oceans and rivers, and then you have floods or tsunamis or tidal waves, and all of a sudden all that stuff is whisked into the ocean. And looking in China, where they have these huge hydro dam dumps that flood entire areas, and that all winds up in the ocean. Is there any pragmatic way of dealing with keeping people from building near the oceans that would reduce that when there's a natural disaster?
Well, yeah, I'm sure that is, but that's local bylaws, and I think a lot of those communities that you might be talking about might not even have bylaws. So
probably not.
Laws. I don't know. That's yeah, I think that's
a biggie.
Over my pay grade. Yeah, it's a biggie. Say that again. Yeah.
And
we have William. I'll be calling on you guys. William Wall. Hi.
Hi, I just want to make sure my microphone's working. Yeah, my microphone's working great. Yeah. Yeah. So what you and your group are doing is not only admirable. It's heroic. It's wonderful what you're doing. You're doing all this cleanup and research and so on. But an obvious question comes to mind is you want to stop all this stuff at the source, the companies that are creating these microplastics, these plastics. And I'm thinking of the analogy of the tobacco industry. I mean, the cigarette companies, even though there were indications it's killing off their customers, they didn't do anything at first, and it took a long time, a lot of legislation, a lot of laws being passed before that they were brought under control. So it seems to me that there's an analogous situation here. These companies know what's happening, but
Sure.
they're not scaling back their production, and that leads to questions about how can they produce different kinds of plastics that are biodegradable in the right kind of way, that are not harmful, and can the ones that are out there, is there some way to biodegrade those in the right way? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Good question. Thank you, William. So I think you are completely accurate about the way to get out of this is through laws and legislation. I mean, you got to make the producers and extended producer responsibility and laws that put the onus onto companies and not us, because way back when keep America beautiful, essentially they're through their funding from fossil fuel companies put the onus on us, and we're the reasons why our environment is all screwed, not them. So yeah, incredibly important. And there are lots of options for compostable certified products. Definitely, there are tons, and there are lots and lots more entering the marketplace every day. So there's lots of alternatives, which are better for the environment. They still take energy to produce and energy to get rid of. But I would say that probably the only way we're really going to get out of this is hurting companies. Hurting companies. It's got to be through legislation. It's got to be through laws, and so supporting your laws. I mean, Sharon knows a lot about legislation and advocacy and legislation and advocacy. So I think, William, you're exactly right.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Alan.
Yeah, I have about 8 questions, but I'm just going to stick with 3 regarding personal use. I do all of these things. I think that I'm being a good consumer. For example, I freeze the same bottles with ice, the same plastic bottles with ice, instead of buying bags of ice, etc. And I reuse them. But I heat food in Tupperware, and I do all kinds of stuff that so my first question is, do these microplastics ever leave my body? That teaspoon in my brain, is that there forever? Am I partially plastic for the rest of my life?
Well, I think you're always
I'm hearing some kind of background volume, so I'm having a hard time hearing. I don't know if somebody's talking or anyway.
It's not me. No one's here. I mean, of course, naturally, depending on how the microplastics or nanoplastics get into your body, I'm sure. I mean, naturally, there are some will leave, but like forever chemicals, they're here to stay. So I would say you're probably we're mostly concerned with bioaccumulation. Once it's entering your body, it's just accumulating. You can probably just guarantee that's happening. Although there probably is, of course, some that's going out. So yeah, and I think if you just maybe you just learned a couple things, and maybe you can walk away with a couple of these items and to try at home, and maybe one of them is not heating up your food in plastics. That would be a really good one.
Yeah.
And maybe even just hucking all those things and starting over and getting some glass. Slowly. I don't know. Was all your questions, or do you have one?
No. My second question was you said something, I missed the beginning of it. Something will outperform single-use containers after only 5 uses. I missed what the thing was.
Reusable containers, reusables. Oh. Because you have to. Well, the reason is most reusables.
Why 5 uses?
Because I think it's probably the amount of energy that took to produce that reusable, because a reusable is going to be thicker, it's going to be more durable. That's a statistic. I guess it would all depend on what that reusable would be. Probably if it's a single-use, takeout container, or a huge difference between a Dunkin' Donuts cup and a Yeti cup. This is probably takes incredible amount of energy in compared to a Dunkin' Donuts cup. But I've had this thing now for 7 years, so keeps on ticking.
Thank you. My other
Thank you,
questions
Adam.
were more about styrofoam and plastic and stuff like that, and other people have their
All right.
hands.
Well, if we have
Thank you.
time, we'll come back. I
Sure.
think Bill
Okay.
will do that. Yeah, Mario, and we'll go back to Eve and Michelle afterwards. Okay, or whoever can put themselves off of mute.
Okay,
Unmute.
sorry. Okay, can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's insidious. It's in every continent. It's found in amoeba, plankton, uh, in Antarctica, in penguins. Every person on Earth, essentially, even in the remotest part of the world, has plastic and PFAS in them. And medicine, multiple studies have been done. No one really knows what it's going to do to our bodies, but it's probably not good. And it's not the plastic you can see that's going to harm you. That won't be absorbed in your gut. It'll just pass through. It's the nanoplastics, the ones that are uh, basically nanometer lengths of plastic. Those are the ones that can get absorbed, travel in the bloodstream, get filtered out by the liver, end up in your brain. So it's the stuff you can't see that's going to cause a problem. But what I was going to say is just to give an example of the cycling of plastic. About 15 years ago, I was on the Council on Science and Public Health at the AMA, and we dealt with an issue where some cosmetic company used to use pumice in cosmetic as an abrasive, which is great. They just found it cheaper to make microplastics. So they switched to
Microbeads.
microplastics, and every application on your face, when it was washed off, had 6 to 8 million microplastic particles, which then went into the Great Lakes, which is where it was studied. Plankton ate it. The fish ate the plankton. People ate the fish. And basically, everyone in the entire Midwest could have a bit of this facial abrasive plastic found in their body from eating the produce from the Great Lakes. They finally put a stop to it. I don't know what they switched to, but that's just one tiny example, just to give you an example of how insidious this is. So it's not really a question, it's more of a comment, but it's insidious. It's going to take a lot to change this trajectory. Great talk, though.
Thank you, Mario, and thank you for your perspective. Definitely appreciate that.
So
And I think, no, go ahead.
we have Sharon. Oh, I'm sorry, Yves and Michelle. Sorry. You
Yeah.
go ahead.
Do you hear me? Yeah. All right. I just wanted to ask, what can we do with plastics without hurting the environment? I mean, it's very difficult to recycle plastic. Some cannot be recycled or can be recycled once but not twice. It's very expensive, and the result is that in the world, less than 10% of plastics are recycled. Then, instead of recycling them, are there methods to destroy them without emitting toxic fumes, toxic particles?
Are you saying plastics in general?
Yes. Of course, there are a lot
Well-
of different plastics with a lot of different
Well,
problems.
our waste kind of goes to 3 different places. Well, maybe 4, I guess. Generally speaking, waste in general gets put into a landfill. It gets burned. It gets burned for energy. It ends up in our ecosystem, and sometimes it gets recycled as well. So I think the best plastic is the plastic that was never made in the first place, because there is no away. I mean, throw it away. Well, there is no away. So yeah, I think it's going back to a lifestyle where it's not just single use. I think it's a hard reality, but I don't think that there is I mean, I think there's some scientific, there's some little creatures and little bugs that have been eating plastics that they seem to be getting some traction on. I don't think that's available to scale, and probably won't be available to scale. I don't think it could ever be available to scale based on how much plastics we're consuming. and producing. So I mean that's outpacing even our gas prices. So
Okay.
so I don't.
Another question. You had a slide with coal plants and emission of CO2, and I wondered why that slide. Are not most plastics made of oil, or are many plastics made of coal too? I'm not sure.
Most plastics are made from petroleum.
Petroleum,
So
yeah,
yes,
not coal.
petroleum.
Okay.
Yes, not coal. No.
All right, thanks.
Yeah,
Oh,
definitely.
I would like to get Sharon Kashida to chime in with her insights regarding, I guess it's mostly reusing. Sharon, are you there? Would you like to say anything?
Il y a deux trucs là.
Yes, no, maybe not.
I think she's eating dinner.
Oh, she might be eating dinner.
No,
So
I don't know.
I have a question.
Yeah, Bill.
What gets me is wine is packaged mostly in glass, and they seem to have a pretty good market. The industry seems to be pretty happy with those glass bottles of wine. Why can't my salad dressing be in glass and recycled accordingly?
Well, Bill, I think you could very easily Google how to make a damn good salad dressing and be way better than anything you can get in cans. So I think you should be doing that, and
Oh,
also probably in the long run, cheaper and way better.
I do know how to do it.
Yeah, I mean the glass. The plastic is an amazing, amazing, amazing product. I mean, it's super cheap. It's super flexible.
And it's light.
If it freezes, it expands. It goes. I mean, it's like the miracle. That's why. I mean, it's just a miracle product. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's just incredibly cheap as well. So, and
It
it
might be the
travels all
weight.
over the world.
I'm guessing it's the weight, but
Yeah, it's all of that. I mean,
the economics
yeah,
seem to work for wine. And
totally.
as Alan was suggesting, well, maybe it's a higher socioeconomical class, but
But it is
what about
economic.
us
It is
winos?
economics. Economics. I mean, you are paying for a piece of, you're paying for glass. I mean, go into the grocery store. I mean, go into the 7-Eleven. You can almost. I mean, it's like when you see a bottle of Coke. I just happen to go live in Mexico a lot, and every now and again I like a Coke. Their Coke is real down there. It's not
Yeah,
crap like it is here. And you see, down there they still have glass bottles, but most, I'd say 95% of all the bottles that were all glass not too long ago, that's all plastic. So, and it's just cheap. It's cheap and easy and flexible and everything that's been said. So, Alan, what do you got?
You actually sort of answered one of my questions about whether there are any technologies or critters developing or that we're inventing that will eat plastic and then float off into the atmosphere or something. And it sounds like you don't think that's very plausible or.
Well, I think no, they are these like little like bagworms or something like that. They're eating plastic, and apparently their poop they claim is plastic free. I can't understand how it can go in one way and come out something else the other way, but that's what they're claiming. But I can't imagine that they're ever going to pull that scale because I mean we're talking. I mean, didn't that say if you put all the plastic together, it would fill Central Park 1.5 miles deep? That's a lot of worms.
a lot of worms.
My other question was actually the first one I have. I think you said the nanoparticles are like one carbon atom in diameter. How far
they can be
down does the breakout go? Does it go into particles? I mean, does it stop at
Well,
the
yeah, it'll
atomic
keep
level?
going. That's a really good question. I don't know if I know the answer. How far does it go? I mean, nano's the bottom, and I think it goes from nano down to continue to be hyper nano. I mean, it's just like at that stage, it can get into everything. It can get into your, a woman's placenta. It can get into your eyeball. It can get into your brain, and it doesn't really matter how much
I
smaller
can
it
answer
gets.
that
It's
actually.
already good,
I
Mario.
can answer that. It's been
Quarks.
studied. I mean, it's not down to an atom, then it's no longer a plastic, but
Right.
it's very short pieces up to like the tiniest dot of a period. An amoeba can swallow something that big. and then a fish can eat the amoeba and onward. So that's about the size. You can see the nanoplastics that can get absorbed, and those can get absorbed in our gut. Anything bigger than that will just go through our gut.
Mhm.
But it keeps breaking down past that point. I'm just wondering, like
It can't
infinity,
get
how many
it
times
can't
do we
get smaller
try
than
to get up?
an individual atom.
Yeah.
Atoms
Does
are
it go that
essentially
far?
indivisible.
Yeah. So it goes that far. That was my
Yeah.
question.
And a single carbon atom, I argue, is not a plastic.
Yeah. Got it.
All right.
Thanks.
No way.
Once you're below nano, it's angstroms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So
Eleanor,
Yeah,
you got a
I'm
question?
sitting here fighting despair. Really, it's so much bigger than I had realized, and I thought I was fairly educated. But you've brought up some marvelous points. How much of your effort is working with elementary, high school, and especially universities, where I think the saving grace lies with our young people? What
Mm.
what is the scope of your work with?
Well, we can always do more. We do field trips with schools locally. We're always doing presentations virtually online. This microplastic, this microplastic program that I shared that I shared about. We really think this has the ability to be something really big. And the great thing about it is it's virtual, so we can be able to train teachers, work with teachers. So but to answer your question, there's always something more we can do. I mean, I was an educator for 20 years, and that's like what we do. So we work with elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, college, universities, but we can always do more, and we can always find ways of doing more. So that's what we always try to do. So Eleanor, if you have any ideas and thoughts and connections, let us know.
Bill, it's Sharon.
great.
Just it is so hard to avoid plastic, but increasingly there are more opportunities to do that. You can bring your own containers, for instance, to Common Crow. There's another store in Gloucester, I think Good Linens, that sells really good quality goods. There's a store in Beverly, it's called Unpacked Living, and she has an enormous assortment of products that you bring in and you fill your own containers. Yes, it's not as easy as just going to the closest grocery store or CVS or wherever. Um, you really have to be intentional about reducing plastic, and it is not easy. But I think with each person that goes the extra step to reduce their plastic and is willing to talk about it or brings their container to the restaurant or asks the restaurant, why aren't you using something that's compostable or reusable? We have to start using our voices. I have, I have been, I'd like to say that I've been successful in helping to get legislation passed in Massachusetts, but it's extremely difficult. I have been working on legislation that falls under the heading of extended producer responsibility, where manufacturers are held responsible for their products, including their packaging. And as all of you have said, what's so attractive about plastic is it is lightweight, it's less costly, it's easily marketable, and it's not breakable. And all of those things are important to manufacturers. Like, remember several years ago hearing I think maybe somebody from P&G talking about packaging for drone delivery, and that would not include glass. So we really need to get the word out, just like you're doing tonight. Eric was on the panel when we showed the film Plastic People in Rockport, and we had nearly 300 people. It was shown recently at the Cabot in Beverly with another 200, and it had several additional showings in Rockport. So people are getting the message. but it's really, I'm a swimmer, and I went in the other day and it was low tide, and the amount of I don't know what, I guess it wouldn't be nano, I guess it would be micro, but really small pieces. It's really disturbing. It's really disturbing. So I want to thank you for hosting this problem, this problem and this discussion, and having Eric. I was glad I was able to join you tonight. It's awesome what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sharon. Thanks for your support and your partnership and everything, and your friendship.
I concur.
May I interrupt? I'm on my phone and I don't know how to raise my hand.
Go ahead.
This is
Yes, please do,
Irene.
Irene.
I'm Eleanor's guest. We're into astronomy clubs down in South in Florida together, and it always frustrates me when I go to a supermarket in Florida that they continue to give plastic bags. It just revolts me that people won't bring their own. And yet here I am on Long Island visiting now, and I don't know if it's a whole New York State law. I hope it is, but I'm delighted to see nobody in the supermarket or CVS or any place else will give you a plastic bag. They don't have them at all. I think CVS will give you a paper bag maybe, or you pay 5 cents for it or something. But so there is hope. You know, the progressive states are moving in the right direction. I don't know what we can do with Florida though.
That's a good one.
All right. I think we've covered the bases, Eric.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Bill, and everybody here for inviting me, and really appreciate it. And thank you for trying and to keep trying to do the best you can to eliminate plastics, single-use plastics from your lives. And thanks for supporting Seaside Sustainability and what we do and everything that we can do. So thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Have a
I have
great
just
weekend.
one quick little comment for Eric. I sent you a chat and I just want to make sure you see it.
In this chat, I haven't really been paying attention to the chat. Forgive me.
Yeah, that's why I figured I'd speak up.
Misspells. Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I will go and take a look at that right now.
I thought you might.
Oh, it does. It doesn't anymore. Oh God, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your service.
That was fabulous. And maybe I could capture the chats and include them as part of the recording.
And Bill, if you were going to use that opening slide as the thumbnail, one of the words was misspelled. So it's no longer misspelled. I can send you the presentation if that's what you're going to do. But
that's good to know. You could just send me that slide.
I will send you. I'll send it to you. Yes.
All
definitely.
right.
Wonderful.
So great going. We all have our work cut out for us. So keep on keeping on. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you
Thanks, Bill.
very
Thanks,
much, Bill.
guys.
As
Bill.
always,
Bye,
I'm
guys.
going to work
Thank you
on
so
a tune
much.
for you, Bill.
Can
Take
I
care.
still store stuff in Tupperware if I don't heat it in Tupperware?
You can, but if
Thank
you
you.
were going to be at some point replacing your Tupperware because it's worn out or anything, get glass, and it has a plastic lid, but it's more durable. And don't. If you're gonna heat something up, take that off, and But if you have
And
don't
also
replace it with.
remove the plastic lid in your microwave and put a lettuce leaf on top. It works great.
Lettuce leaves. All right. Be eating a
From
lot of
someone
lettuce.
who worked in restaurants for 25 years. Yeah, it works fine.
All right. Thank you all. Take care.
Alrighty. Good night,
Sweet
everybody.
dreams.
Thank you,
guys.
Eric.
Have a good night. Thank you,
Thanks for
guys.
everything.
Appreciate it. Have a good
It's
night.
great.
Bye, guys.
Bye.